session in which the intent was to cover the various aspects of what the future buildings and the future living should be like. Today, we are on to our fifth talk. We have a very knowledgeable speaker who's lined up. You'll recall that we started with energy, we spoke about water, we have spoken about, and today we're going to be speaking about waste. So the series is going in a direction which we had started right in the beginning when we spoke about what the future living buildings should be like. And the intent would be that our final speaker next week would be talking on the subject. Before we go to the session, I'd like to make an introduction for what the Prem Jain Memorial Trust is. Even though many of you have been part of this journey for last 4 sessions that we have already completed, but it's still good that we talk about it because there could be some new student members who might have joined. The Prem Jain Memorial Trust was started in the memory of Dr. Prem Jain, who was a consulting engineer. He's in fact one of the first consulting engineers of India. Ran a company called Spectral, a large electromechanical MEP design firm and sustainability firm, which grew to a strength of 550 people at its peak. Dr. Jain thereafter became the chairman of Indian Green Building Council, and under his leadership, the council grew from a strength of few thousand square feet to today where it stands at 7 billion square feet. Dr. Jain had a vision when he took over the council leadership. He said that I like to have 1 square feet for every person in India. India has 1.3 billion people. So he said, I like to see 1.3 billion square feet being completed. Little did he know, or in fact, none of us could imagine that we reached the target of 1.3 billion square feet in just a matter of 2.5 years. Thereafter, he set a vision saying that the IGBC will have a 10 billion square feet of green space registered with it by 2022. And today, the council is very much doing that. After demise of Dr. Jain, the very able leader, Mr. V. Suresh, assisted by Gurmeet, they took over the chairmanship of Indian Green Building Council, and we are progressing towards meeting that target that was set. In fact, comfortably in that direction. After demise of Dr. Jain, we decided, some of us got together, the well-wishers of Dr. Jain, and a lot of industry members also made a representation and said, why don't we carry the work of Dr. Jain forward? He's a man who believed in Mother Earth. He's a man who was believer of sustainability, and that's why it's important his message is passed on to the future generations. So in his memory, the Prem Jain Memorial Trust was started, and it's been now about a year that we've been running the trust. The trust has been primarily doing work on related to students because Dr. Jain loved students. So the main mission of the trust is to identify the future leaders and be a catalyst for sustainability. If you want to know more about the trust, you can go to the website www.premjainmemorialtrust.com. You'll see that on the slides also on the screen. Do go there. You'll find a lot of information on sustainability, and it will also give you an opportunity to connect with the leaders across India. There's an icon there called Greeno. No green or Greeno. The Greeno is for the students and for the industry professionals also. If they would like to know if they have any questions on sustainability, they can post it there. Once you post the question there, it will be picked up by the panel of experts which help which will provide the help and will provide you the answers. All the previous editions that we have done so far, the 4 editions of this living building series that we have done, the videos are all up there on the Prem Jain Memorial site, and also the question answers which were posted during the talk, which were answered. So some of them were answered, some of them could not be answered due to paucity of time. There are also, the answers are available on the Greeno section. So do go there, visit that, and learn from there. The Greeno series is primarily focused around students, and I'm happy to say that every session of us of the living building series has got more than 250 people who attended. In fact, this time also we have a very large number of registrations, and we are hoping that this initiative continues to grow through new plannings that we come out with. This point of time, I'll also like to welcome, while I was scrolling, I noticed at that point in time, Mr. Raghavendran, a famous architect from Chennai, who's part of the list of people who are listening to this. I'd like to welcome him. He's an important member of IGBC and also an architect who has made a mark for himself. We also have Mr. Jamni Oberoi in this, who's the chairman of the Jaipur chapter of the Indian Green Building Council. Mr. Raghavendran leads the Chennai chapter, and Mr. Jamni Oberoi leads the Jaipur chapter. So thank you for both of you joining. I'm not aware if other leaders have also joined. I'm not able to see them right now. We also have amongst us Mrs. Renu Jain, wife of Dr. Jain. She is, of course, part of the Prem Jain Memorial Trust and an inspiration for a lot of us in terms of the guidance that she keeps providing. So without further ado, let's move on to our session of the day. Before that, I'd like to hand over to Mr. Hariharan, Dr. Hariharan, who's a trustee at the Prem Jain Memorial Trust. Dr. Hariharan is well known to a lot of people, and he has been an entrepreneur and currently runs the Alltech Foundation. He's a man who's well known for his work in the area of water, energy, waste, in fact, everything. He's a guru of all. So Dr. Hariharan, over to you. Before, just one last instruction I'd like to leave there is that we have on the bottom of the screen, you would notice there is a Q&A box and a chat box. During the presentation or after the presentation, you are welcome to post your questions on the Q&A box. Please do not use the chat box. We will be referring to the Q&A box, and the questions that will keep coming there, I'll be posing them to Dr. Hariharan as well as to our speaker, Mr. Subbarao. They will take the questions, they'll provide you the answers, but please post them on the Q&A. Keep your mics muted, and over to you, Dr. Hariharan.
Thank you, Ashish. You know, every time you bring such warm reminiscences, as you speak, I actually am reminded of Dr. Jain. You speak so much like him, having spent 25 years with him. You might not have noticed as you were speaking, our V. Suresh, the National Chair of IGBC, has also joined in today. He was very particularly keen on waste. You know that he spoke to us all in the group, maybe last week or some such thing, about how it's important that waste is managed better in India, and the larger context needs to also be set for all of you, dear students. Greetings to you. You need to understand how waste has to be managed. It's easy to throw away the bottle. It is easy to go to a store and pick up something that you put into a plastic bag. So you have to think about what happens to these things. And this session of about 45 minutes that our S.R. Kumar sir will present to you will actually take you through one wonderful tour of the prospects and career opportunities also that you have in waste management. I'm talking to engineers, I'm talking to architects, all of you there. About 20 years ago, there was a seminar in Bombay I heard Kirti Shah speak at a keynote address. He's that legendary architect for truly affordable housing for the poor, who at 78 is still happily amongst us and doing very well, locked down at Ahmedabad just now. He said something that stayed in my memory then. 2% of the country's landmass, 75% of the country's natural resources, devoured, eaten, consumed by nearly 40% of our population, staying on just that 2% of the land. That is our cities. It made an abiding impression on me, so much so that one apartment called TZ Homes was born a year after in 2003 with a near zero development at a time when even the green rating system was not actually quite yet born in India. The TZ in the name stood then for Towards Zero Energy Development. And I recall a conversation about a month ago, maybe, with Ashish, where he was saying that instead of looking at zero energy, net zero energy, we should look at towards net zero energy development. And therefore, we came up with the phrase of near zero, which is acclaimed or accepted in the world too. Anup Naik, who will inspire you next week with a presentation that caps this 6-part dialogue on near zero, was one of those architects who helped create that globally acclaimed project. He will be talking to you all next week, as I said, as Ashish also said. You have understood the difference between near zero and net zero, and why net zero is not as much a feasible aspiration, though the two terms are used interchangeably, sometimes by industry. I noticed one of you, from one of the universities, actually came up with some very insightful observations on that, on the responses that you offered for the reference reading questions. You must all see a film called Planet of the Humans that was released on April 21, some 3 weeks ago. It is free on YouTube. It will help you understand why net zero is not actually a workable proposition. It's a powerful account running some 1 hour and 45 minutes or so. Watch it, study it, understand why solar power and wood-based biomass power is a delusion. I'll repeat the name of the film, Planet of the Humans. Check on YouTube. Demand side, as Padhu Padmanabhan said in one of those sessions, I think it was the third, is the only way forward. Save and drop dramatically consumption. Don't create more as buildings and then plan for reduction. As careers, you must explore opportunity with existing buildings while you also chase new ones. You can change that as fresh, young and trained minds as you step out to make careers someday very soon as you step out of the portals of your college. I must congratulate the students of HITS Padur in Chennai. Congratulations to all of you. You are superstars. And of course, Sri Sri University small bunch for some great thinking and some very, very good ideas. I was looking at all of them yesterday on the Excel sheets that one of my colleagues presented. It is fantastic. Keep it going. Your quality responses to the 4 parts of this near zero dialogue so far are being studied by us. It will surely help you to secure that prestigious certificate of learning from the PJMT, which will be issued to you all before end of this month. We are working that out with your faculty heads and teachers. I urge all other students who are here today with us to study the reference reading, answer the questions, and win your valuable certificates. It will help you into your future. We have the next 6-part dialogue starting in June. We will let you know. I will also tell you of the next speaker in this near zero dialogue as I wade through what I have to tell you now. We are looking forward to your answers to the 7 questions that our master speaker of today, S.R. Kumar sir, has included in the reference reading material he designed for this presentation. Excellent questions he's offered you. I have not seen responses yet. Maybe some of you have come up with these. I will check that out. But you must see how you think about those questions and answer them. I'm not going to introduce Kumar sir to you. A profile of his will have appeared on the chat box screen by now. If you have anything to say to him or ask of him, please write it down in the Q&A box, not in the chat box, as Ashish sir also told you. You will by now have understood that all buildings that you design as architects or as engineers, the drawings you create, whether it's mechanical or electrical engineers that you are, that cover energy, water, waste, and air, you have to go beyond aesthetics, volume, and space that most architects look at. That is when you would put soul into your buildings and meaning into how the future will be taken on with resilience. You will have understood that you have to centrally think about how to measure and estimate these demands. I'm glad to hear from some of you last week, dear students, that you now are confident of estimating water requirement for an apartment. If it is, say, 100 flats, how much will be the water required if you are asked to design one, that is. That is a tremendous change to me. I'm very, very heartened. Congratulations to you and your teachers for having mentored that process, understood and assimilated these values that we are presenting in these sessions. If you understand the big picture, then the rest will follow, and you will enjoy your work as an architect or as an engineer. Dr. Prem Jain used to say to his students, if you are a compassionate human being, the learning of skills is easier done. Ashish will remember that. And I'm sure many, many students who are today practitioners and professionals who are also on this group today will remember his sessions at the School of Planning and Architecture. And he never spoke so much about the skills as much about passion and compassion that you bring to your work. We covered near zero energy in 2 presentations between Ashish Rakecha and that doyen of energy in India, Padu Padmanabhan, and I'm happy to see that he is also there today with us. Morning, Padu. We covered near zero water options with Rajesh Jain last week. I took you through the 6 strands in one of the stories of this 6-part dialogue. This presentation on solid waste is an important one for you. Waste begins with construction debris in the industry you have now chosen to be part of. Today's session will not cover that. We will bring you a master speaker another time in another dialogue. There are many such 6-part dialogues that the Learning Building series will offer you from the Prem Jain Trust. Kumar sir has specialized in wet organic waste that makes for 55 to 60% of all waste. He's a man who's traveled some 25 to 30 countries. He worked in Canada for about 20 years. He's worked on technologies. He's not so much a businessman as a technopreneur. Let me offer you a little tour of the challenge of waste in India, as the IGBC National Chair, V. Suresh, who is also there with us today, remarked last week on a little chat with me. He said, the key taglines are waste to wealth, refuse to resource, trash to cash. All of them, you can see, are about how you can monetize or make the task viable economically. Our farmers intuitively manage waste and turn it to wealth on about nearly 2 million hectares or 200 million hectares or 2 million square kilometers of the nation's 3.3 million square kilometers. That's nearly 70%, 65% of our land. It is us, people like you and I in the cities, accounting for a mere 35% of the population, who make for nearly all the waste. Mind you, it is not domestic waste which is a challenge, as Kumar sir will explain to you today. They need to be cleared and converted to cash while we tidy up and clean our cities. It will not get done if there is no economic gain, as I said. It cannot be a major import substitute for energy, nor will it make so much money that big companies want to be in this business. So how do we solve this? Governments are actually mandated, municipal bodies are mandated to clean up garbage. India has about 7,900 cities and towns, and each of them therefore have municipalities. Many towns manage to do it well. Tamil Nadu, for example, has about 80 municipal installations for solid waste management, what we call SWM, and for converting to energy or sometimes compost. In fact, Kumar sir has also worked a bit in Tamil Nadu, and he will tell you about it. The problem remains of landfills and poisonous leakage, which have to be dealt with. Well, I will let Kumar sir tell you that story as he goes along. Waste from industry, particularly the MSME sector, is massive. How do we manage to deal with that? Slag in steel or fly ash in coal power plants is a challenge not seriously addressed. You must go to Neyveli or to Ramagundam or any of the thermal plants, and for kilometers you will see fly ash, mountains of fly ash that are heaped up. So what do you do with that? Yes, the industry has come up with a few solutions in the last, maybe 15 years to see that such fly ash is used for building blocks and such, but it is still not solving the problem at the far larger levels that we need to. China has a problem which is 3 times ours, so let's not even talk about how the world will address these challenges into the future. You will, as young, inventive minds, come up with ideas as you chug into your career over the next 20 years. Today's presentation doesn't cover these things about industrial waste, but we will bring you good curated presentations on those elements also in other dialogues of the Learning Building series into the future. We have many 6-part dialogues planned for you. We will announce next week perhaps. S.R. Kumar is one of a few brave entrepreneurs who chose to return to India and to take up the challenge of managing waste. That was in 2013, I think. He will correct me if I'm wrong. He came back because he wanted to be part of the solution. There are many other experts like him offering solutions in different parts of India. There are 2 IGBC members that we all know very well, one in Mysore and one in Ahmedabad, Vinod Maroli and Jayesh Hiriani, who are also doing their best to bring waste management solutions to communities, to companies and campuses, as well as to municipal corporations. A lot of what Kumar Sir presents today goes back to the 1970s, when the first alarms on the state of the earth was sounded by Alvin Toffler in Future Shock, and then in another book called The Third Wave. Please read these 2 books. If you are going to be architects or engineers, you will learn things that will shape your future. At that time, Toffler was 42 years old when he wrote that earth-shattering book, Future Shock. His work was also the basis for my own doctoral dissertation in the mid-1980s. Toffler died in 2016, a broken and disappointed man, for mankind did exactly what he predicted and brought us to this very sorry pass. Toffler talked about the prosumer, of the producer who is at once the consumer. When Kumar Sir says the best way to treat waste is to manage it where you generate the waste, he is talking actually about prosuming, producing and consuming. If you checked for the meaning of prosumer, as I did yesterday or day before, you get some strange definitions and wrong attributes, but not its meaning in the ways you and I should actually understand it. We produce, we consume in some place without centralized markets and distribution. That is truly near zero development. He will explain to you how segregation is vital. You should practice what he will share as his experience. You should initiate a green campus program in your college and walk the talk. Talk to your faculty, your teachers. SWM as a process comes before you treat waste. He will explain that to you too. If you web search solid waste management, you will find many presentations. See what you can learn from them. The reference reading this time offers you 7 links that we have chosen carefully. Check them out, read them, study them. And 7 more questions. 7 questions, as I said earlier, have been very thoughtfully put up by Kumar Sir. You must answer them. All of you, those who have not done it in the last 4 weeks, must go back to all these 4 presentations of the past. Listen to them and read the reference reading. You will then win your certificate. On your chat box, you will see the link to the reference reading for this session. Please copy, paste, and read it. Answer the intelligent and practical questions he has raised. Humans are great waste makers, unlike all other species. We refuse to accept we are just another animal on the planet. There are 8.4 million species. All the rest of the species rely on the current sun for their living. We have gobbled up most of the fossils that the ancient sun over the last maybe 60 to 200 million years gave the earth. Indians are low on waste generated per capita, though we are the 3rd largest. Kumar Sir will tell you more about it. That is because our villages produce so little as waste. Our per capita waste in villages is 25 grams. In cities, it is about 400 plus grams. Our national average is about 300 grams. China is at about 1,000 grams or 1 kilo. US is at 2,500 grams or 8 times India's. Think about that. We are a very frugal people, as Dr. Jain used to also say. India is the Jagat, Bharat is the Jagat Guru of sustainability, he used to say. Not because of poverty, but because of strong traditional values and a deeply rooted culture of living a Spartan life. Gandhiji is one such example. We are about 50 crore people in cities. At 300 grams, we are therefore 150,000 tons per day. Simple math. Our villages hold 75 crore people. Imagine if they were to produce like waste like you and I do in cities, what would happen? The world generated about 242 million tons of plastic waste. Now that's a large number. You can't conceive of what that means. It was about 12% of all municipal solid waste. When it comes to plastic, China produces 60 million tons a year now. The US is much less at about 38 or 39 million tons. So what is India's plastic waste generated? Take heart, it's only 9 million tons. For a country 4 times the Americans in population, we produce 1/4 of the US as waste, as plastic waste. Remember also that we have only 1/3 the land that the US has got. So our problem, even if it is only 9 million tons, is pretty serious. Each American produces about, look at this picture, each American produces about 26 plastic bottles of waste equivalent. So what is the figure for Indians? It's 3.5 bottles equivalent. And for the Chinese, the figure is at about 36 bottles. They have outpaced the US in the last 8-10 years. So any foreigner comes and tells you that we must do something about waste, please remember this, that you are a frugal country and yet you have problems. I'm not saying we should not do something about plastic. The trouble with plastic is that it cannot degrade. You can throw a plastic cover or wrapper out in the open and come back a million years later and it will still be there, buried in the soil. Pyrolysis plants have made the job easy. In 24 to 30 hours, it can convert to biofuel that you can use for your cars or for your gensets. I was a part of one such journey where 2 towns got a pyrolysis plant at no more than about 100 kgs, at about 13 lakhs. It costs very little. But the challenge of collecting such plastic waste, because people throw them everywhere, becomes the problem that we need to solve. Kumar sir will tell you about that also. He will talk about, primarily his specialization has been in biomethanation or converting wet waste to biogas. We will invite another expert soon in the Living Building series to offer you knowledge in plastics and conversion to biofuels. But I must tell you this, another story, a little story which you will find interesting. The water bottles we use are recycled nearly completely, about 95%. What is not recycled as water bottles that you and I throw on highways and in remote areas, which cannot be collected, is that 5%. All such PET bottles, as they are called, are crushed and recycled for polyester filament yarn, which goes into textiles. We will tell you that story another day. It's a fantastic story of people who collect such bottles as garbage, as rag pickers and such. So your chocolate wrappers, plastic covers, thing-on wrappers, all the packaging plastic that is a problem has to be handled. Should we ban manufacturing them instead of asking people to not use them? So how do we go about doing that with the government? Think about that too. You may ask why people did not do anything about it all these years. Until year 2000, plastic waste generated by humans was not much of a problem. Between just 2005 and 2015, plastic waste generation doubled in the world. China was the major culprit. Population and new ways of packaging suddenly shot up the production and the use of plastic. It is us alone who are dangerously making our only home, Earth, into a place we cannot live in. The human species I'm talking about. And worse, we are threatening the very existence of all other living species. If you are a tiger or an orangutan, the dangerous virus is this human species and not what we are all hearing about today. Keep that in mind as Kumar sir presents what is full of knowledge, practical knowledge, as Ashish sir said. He is very good at his understanding of the technology and the cost and design approaches to making solutions. He will explain, well, the way he knows best. Send questions on the Q&A window, as Ashish sir reminded you. It is now over to Subbarao Kumar. Before you begin your formal address, Kumar, can you tell us of the time you first wrote to Dr. Prem Jain and when you first met him and how you joined the IGBC movement? Over to you, Kumar. Thank you. Thank you all for listening to me.
Thank you, Dr. Hariharan. Yes, I still remember the day I met Mr. Prem Jain. And also I remember those times when I wanted a small assistance. and he went out of the way. I remember him calling yourselves and calling me 2-3 times and was asking me whether I was able to achieve what I wanted. That was the kind of humility. I mean, I have been a sort of Ekalavya to try and learn from Dr. Prem Jain, yourself, Dr. Hariharan, and other stalwarts like Mr. Suresh and others in the IGBC fraternity. After coming back to India, it has been a fantastic platform for me to learn various green issues on the IGBC platforms. Good morning to all of you, the participants.
Well, let him share his screen. And I request you all, dear students, to not just watch, study it, make notes as you can if you've got some pen and paper around. There you are, his screen is coming up. Ashish, thank you once again. I'm sure you'll track things while I will also help, we'll partner the process. Yeah.
Nice introduction, Dr.
Sure.
Okay, there I am. Good morning to all of you once again. I'll be trying to demystify the near zero myth. Well, is it really a myth? No, near zero can be achieved. It is certainly not a myth. Many of those countries are shining armors. Some of these European countries like Germany, Sweden, Norway have shown how near zero can be achieved so far. Okay, there are other countries which are larger countries like the United States and even China. They are not able to get into this near zero mode. But it can be achieved with certain good practices and avoiding some old policies. What it requires is a framework of good policies. Let me take you through a few facts and figures. The existing practices, without criticizing anyone in particular, would like to share some of the international best behaviors and regulations. They're very simple to adapt. You're not going to be spending any extra money here. It is just requiring the proper government regulations. And also, there is a lot of money to be made to become a green entrepreneur. Today, I'm very proud to tell you that I'm a green entrepreneur. I would invite each of you who are at your engaged to become a green entrepreneur. It is fulfilling. It is also a place where you can make money and where you can grow as well. I will try and tell you which are the channels where you can begin your green entrepreneurship. Solid waste in India, we are the third largest waste producer on the planet, about 150,000 tons per day. We are way behind the US and China, but we are about 400 million people living in cities. Another 200 million, we are moving to cities by 2040. Almost every decade, we are tripling. The kind of people moving from village to cities are doubling or even tripling. We have over 7,900 towns and cities. But as a per capita, we are like Dr. Hariharan said, we are having a Spartan behavior. We are just about 620 grams there. China is 720 grams and US is 10,000 grams per person. Just like the Big Mac burger, they are way higher. But do you know that India generates about 62 million tons annually? And the most problematic figure, what you can see on the screen, is that 25% is being processed only. Processing is the key here in any waste management, and only 25% is very alarming. The more you process, the better the waste management. If you process, it's a resource. If it is not, it is a big bane. It is a sanitation health issue. Guess what? Cities are only 2% of India. The land mass is about 3.3 million square kilometers. Cities are just 150,000 square kilometers, only 2%, but we are the major culprits in this waste management. Okay, the problem is the villagers, there is an issue where there is some kind of a circle where the waste is being managed by themselves. The cities are having so many different issues here. That needs to be tackled to make it better. Now let's look at the existing scenario. What is really happening at this point of time? There are several municipalities who are in charge of waste management. And what is happening is the waste is only being transported and being dumped into landfills. Some places, waste is also being composted. Now, creating a landfill in a near distant village, what is happening? The waste is being taken out, transported about 30, 40 kilometers near a village and then being dumped. And that is being called a landfill. That is a criminal activity. It needs to be stopped at this instant. What can you see on the screen? There's a lot of fire burning. I hope anybody can correlate this with this slide. This is a daily affair in most of the landfill due to methane being produced because the anaerobic situation created inside those landfills. And with just a small spark, they will start burning. Can we afford this mayhem? And can we afford this cruelty towards atmosphere? By burning waste without control, greenhouse gases are being released, doing irreparable damage to the already depleting ozone layers. This is one of the examples at Diona. This is one of the largest landfills in the world. That is the Diona landfill near Mumbai. Now, very importantly, you have solid waste, but one of the things which we have to really focus is on the organic waste. That needs to be processed immediately. Why? I'll tell you. Just keep the organic waste in your home, the cooked food, for some time, 4 to 5 hours, fine. After 6 hours, it starts becoming stale. It starts smelling. Can you even use it? After 8 to 10 hours, it starts producing a poisonous substance called leachate. So if the same organic waste is dumped on some landfill and then it starts producing leachate and then that starts getting into a water table, once again, water tables are depleting. This poisonous substance getting into the water table, creating havoc to the nearby villages. Is it really proper? No. Organic waste is the real villain in the plot. Organic waste needs to be processed in both centralized and decentralized manners. I will come to decentralization and centralization very soon. Now, I am putting a sort of panchatantra here. I mean, I'm just saying 5 points here. What can be done better? There's a lot of work happening with various municipalities in India. There's a lot of unbridled growth of population. So municipalities are trying to keep up with this unbelievable growth which India is happening through. So there are certain of these 5 principles where India can get involved. And I would suggest these 5 different panchatantra. First of all, do a strict and non-negotiable segregation policy. Segregation is the core of everything here. Let us not have transport contracts. It should be process contracts. I'll be going in detail on each of these 5 points. Decentralized or centralized approach one needs to see depending on the nature of the waste and the quantum of waste near a municipal ward. Enforcement of bulk waste generation rules. I'll be describing to you what are bulk waste generators and why I always say biomethanation or biogas is always a better than composting policy, especially for India. Now, strict and non-negotiable policy on segregation. Organic waste is basically 50 to 60, even sometimes 70%. And the balance only is dry waste. Almost every dry waste is recyclable, every bit of them. You can see it on your slide that municipal solid waste has organics, recyclables, and inerts. there you can see that inerts are only 22% and recyclables are 20%. And almost every recyclable, in fact, the inerts has some sand, pebbles, and gravels. Even that has become a construction and demolition waste, where that is being turned into M sand. You might have heard of M sand because there are a lot of sand which is being, the river sand is no more there, no more available. But M sand is a fantastic replacement, which has become coming out of the inerts. So if you process everything, properly segregate, you hardly have anything going to the landfill. The landfill should be there, but only for 4 to 5% of the waste which cannot be processed. Segregation is the key. If you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 part segregation will really help us in every way. The organic waste is going to be segregated that way, and the paper waste. All of us know papers, we sell papers at something like 10 rupees to 12 rupees. Suppose we were given a price for each of the segregated item, don't you think we could have done better? We all save newspapers. We could have saved the other things also. I have been telling the municipalities, I'm requesting them to create a policy to buy almost every kind of waste. Does any of you know that a kg of Pepsi Cola cans, the Mirinda cans and the Coke cans will cost around 75 rupees per kg? Yes, it is a whopping 75 rupees per kg because there is a lot of aluminum content. So if you segregate it properly, everything can be resold. Now, I just want to give you much more information on the components of dry waste, how it is, the used plastics, as Dr. Hariran said, that can go into recycling and that can be made into used oil, paper, cardboard, glass pieces, metal pieces, everything is being recycled. The construction demolition waste, as I told you, some of my friends are already making M sands out of that. Just a pictorial representation of the dry waste. Everything has a value for it. Now, what we can do, the municipalities can collect organic waste every day, provided it is properly segregated with a paper liner. Every day organic waste needs to be collected. All other waste can be collected twice a week or just once a week. The e-waste can be collected every fortnight or just once in a month. Hazardous waste and e-waste needs to be segregated and kept aside. So it's very important that organic waste to be collected every day and sent to the processing centers and not to the landfills. What happens if you do it at source? It is very important that you do it at source. There's no point in bringing waste to a certain point and then segregating. That is creating a lot of hardship for the waste handler there. That needs to be segregated at source. You cannot bring waste, mixed waste to a point and then segregate it. That used to happen. Even now at many places it's happening. So that needs to be stopped. Segregation at source is the mantra. Benefits of segregation is to be known to everyone. It's quite simple. It is cash to trash or waste to profit. It reduces waste and it recycles waste. Then there is cleanliness. Even the waste handler, it's easier for him, and safety and better health. And there's a lot of saving of time and money. And there is also money to be made as green entrepreneurs. This is a simple pyramid. As you see the peak, waste reduction is very important. Reduction, recycling, and reusing is at the top of the pyramid. And there are other processes like anaerobic composting and aerobic composting. And you can have waste to energy, windrow composting. And on the least of the bottom is the unsanitary landfill. That's the last thing we need to have. In the worst case, we need to have scientific landfills which can capture methane. Or you can have modern landfills which can also capture and flare methane. And there are the latest ultra-modern landfills which are recovering and using the methane. So that's a pyramid which all of you can have a look, and I can share this slide for you. If the waste is processed properly, what is going wrong? I mean, there are a lot of waste processing centers. They are doing it, but still many things are going wrong. First of all, most of the municipalities, in the name of process contract, they are doing a transfer contract. That needs to be stopped. And this transport contract, once again, that is all going to the unscientific landscape. The large scale composting is happening at certain places, but in large scale composting, there is something called windrow composting, where you need to churn the waste on a daily basis. That is not happening. When that churning is, windrow is not happening, there is an anaerobic reaction being created inside these heaps of compost. And methane, which is 24 times more dangerous than CO2, is just going to the atmosphere. Are we trying to process something, or are we trying to create a danger here? So that's why I'm not a big fan of large scale composting, because it's not easy to do large scale composting with huge heaps of composting. So that is where I'm going to tell you what can be done better. That is where I'm telling you methane should be processed, and it should not be just left to the atmosphere. In the case, what is happening right now in many places. There are biomethanation projects, but they are very less. That needs to be increased. Now, there is this concept of which is better. Should we do decentralized waste management or centralized waste management? That once again depends on kind of waste, the quantum of waste. It is better to create or demarcate some municipal wards. For example, let me take the example of Bangalore. We have got 198 municipal wards. Some wards will have APMC markets, large restaurants, large hotels. There you can go for a centralized approach, where you can even create bio-CNG. But then there are other wards which you can have decentralized approach. Whatever is generated in that municipal ward can be processed then and there. So there is this old adage in the US, what gets generated in Vegas stays in Vegas. So nothing goes out of your ward. For example, Okla in Delhi, it's a huge mandi, fruit and vegetable market yard. There you can culminate 4 to 5 municipal wards and take the waste of the vegetable and fruit market and create a large centralized process. Now on centralized process, there are many opportunities for green entrepreneurs. There's a process called Satat, which I'm going to be sharing those details with you now. So you basically, depending on the municipal ward characteristic, decide on centralized or decentralized. CFL is the mantra, central, federal, local, sometimes central. This is what I learned from Dr. Hariharan. Sometimes it should be central, sometimes federal, right up to the apartment, sometimes local. Even your home, you can have a small biogas plant or a compost plant. Nothing need to go out of your compound. Imagine a situation, nothing goes up to your compound and no waste goes to the landfill. Imagine that situation. That's a beautiful, right way to process the waste and see it's a decentralized manner. Now, let me come to a very important topic here, the waste bulk generators. Now, who are these waste bulk generators? They are big culprits, by the way. Most of the cities have 60% coming from waste bulk generators. When you actually analyze it, only 40% is coming from individual homes. Who are these waste bulk generators? Agricultural produce markets, hotels and restaurants, large market halls, large shopping malls, large government and private buildings, software tech parks produce a lot of waste, residential apartments and villa clusters, even marriage halls, they are all waste bulk generators. Don't you think if they process it in their compound, 60% of waste is produced, waste is produced with them, and if that is processed in their compound, that's such a big relief for the local municipality, which is also struggling there to process it. There are some landmark regulations in Bangalore, Pune, and Noida, where it says, waste bulk generators, you cannot bring your waste out. If you bring it, your consent of establishment or your licensing will be held. That's a beautiful regulation passed in a few cities, but that is required for every city in India, whether it's a metro city, tier 2 city, tier 3 cities, they should have this regulation. Pune has gone one step ahead. If you process your waste, let's say I'm a shopping mall. If I process my waste within the compound by way of composting, by way of biogas or whatever other method, if I can process it within my compound, Pune municipality gives you 5% reduction in your property tax. So in Noida, they have gone one step ahead. They give more than 50% of money, the capital cost for the processing within the compound, within the resident welfare associations. So this is very important. If 60% can be processed by the waste bulk generators, you've got only 40% which can be handled by the municipality in a much better manner. Last but not the least, out of the Panchatantra which I was talking about, choose biomethanation over composting policy. Composting is fine, but why biomethanation is better? Please look at the following slides. See, now out of the solid waste, you have a biodegradable fraction, wherein out of that, in anaerobic digestion is biomethanation, aerobic digestion is composting. Now, in the case of a schematic diagram showing the aerobic digestion process, you have got heat, carbon dioxide, and water coming out, and there is also the compost. But in the case of biodegradable fraction, in case of biomethanation, you have biogas, you have water, you have the digestate, and you also have the heat. All of them can be reutilized. The digestate is an excellent liquid manure. We are importing a lot of organic fertilizers. This is an excellent import substitute, and biogas is an excellent import substitute for the gas which we are importing. And out of the heat which is coming, you can create CHP, combined heat and power stations, if you do it in a large centralized waste management. There are other beautiful and simple factors why biogas is better. You have, because biogas is an anaerobic reaction, it is in a closed atmosphere. You have the pests and other things kept away. And biogas is produced only for the first 20 days it's there. After the retention time is over, every day waste and biogas is being produced on a daily basis. Biogas and slurry. Every day you get it. Whereas compost, it may take 3 months, 6 months, or even 12 months. You have two import substitutes, two byproducts, fertilizer and biogas. And in the case of compost, it's only one. Because it's an anaerobic reaction, just toss your food into the digester and forget it. You can even have it at a home as well. I will show you some case studies where you can have a small biogas plant at your home. Whereas in compost, it requires churning. If you don't churn it and if you don't monitor it, it will create an anaerobic reaction and methane is produced, and methane is going to the atmosphere, which I told you is 24 times more dangerous than CO2. Biogas can accept any kind of organic waste. Unlike compost, you cannot put fishes and meat or dairy, it will start smelling in a very big way. So to further tell you more the advantages of anaerobic digestion, it's a net energy producer. Biogas is a renewable energy, produces a liquid and fibrous fertilizer. It sanitizes the feedstock. This is very important. For example, you might have heard of foot and mouth disease in the case of cows, especially in Europe and Britain. There is a lot of these issues. What happens, since in the process of composting, there is no proper temperature maintained, a lot of viruses will remain, and they can go back when that compost is put for the fields, agricultural fields. When the cows eat that, they eat those viruses and the microorganism also. So that is creating foot and mouth disease. Whereas in the case of a biodigester, there is a proper temperature maintained, there is a sanitation happening. So biogas digester takes care of these issues as well. There's hardly any odor. You have a biogas digester, you won't even know that there is a waste management happening right in front of you, because it's anaerobic, it's totally enclosed. less pollution than spreading untreated organic waste. Effect of fertilizer is excellent. The fertilizer generated out of a biogas system is any day better than the so-called city compost, which we are having in cities, composting places. So anaerobic wins, hands down. Composting needs energy input. First of all, large compost piles require a lot of energy. That is not necessary. Anaerobic digestion, as I told you, is a renewable energy. It produces more energy than it consumes. And that's why we call biogas or biomethanation is power positive. It is power, it's not power negative. All other processes are power negative. This produces more power than it consumes by itself. As I said, aeration is the major issue in composting. But let me also give you some basics of biogas. It is methane, 55 to 60% methane, and about the balance is CO2. And then there is traces of H2S when biogas happens. It's an anaerobic digestion. It ferments with organisms, production by breakdown of organic matter in the absence of oxygen. Biogas can use different waste materials. It can use agricultural waste, it can use municipal waste, it can use sewage waste, cow dung, and also press mud from sugar industries, the food waste, the stubble, agricultural stubble, which is happening in I don't know whether you are aware that Delhi's pollution is not because of just vehicular pollution. The Delhi is surrounded by farmers from Haryana, UP, Punjab, where they burn their agricultural lost paddy stubble. That is a huge amount of pollution. That stubble, if it can be collected, collated, and processed in a biogas digester, it's a fantastic resource. This is a beautiful depiction, graphic courtesy from Indian Biogas Association. What all it can be done out of this? From the anaerobic digestion, you can have thermal activity. If you compress, you can get into, it can be a CNG which can be supplied for buses and cars. I'll be talking more about the Satat program where Indian Oil and GAIL and other petroleum companies will buy biogas from us if we make it 4 tons per day. We can compress it into bio-CNG. It can be piped gas. For example, if there is a restaurant and all the restaurant waste can be put in the biogas digester, we can pipe it back to the canteen stoves. It can be done that way. Now, there are other renewable energies like solar and windmills. Excellent. But you require sun for solar. You require wind for the windmill. Can you get energy on demand? No, you cannot. So biogas is the queen of renewable energy. It's on-demand energy whenever you want, because there's tons and tons of waste available. You just need to process it. So it's on-demand energy. You need not depend on sun or the wind. Excellent organic fertilizer. I already stressed this point. It's a closed nutrient cycle. For example, I just want to give you an example. Let's say that we are going in our car having a banana with us. The banana is with us safe and fine as long as it is there. But when we start eating the banana peel, immediately we want to put it somewhere. We don't want to keep it in our car even for a few minutes. If that goes on the main road or the tar road or the concrete road, that has to go back to the land. If that is processed properly, that is where it is creating a closed nutrient cycle because the biogas system. The waste is reduced, and as I said, it's a renewable energy, reduce odors and files. LPG equivalent gas, cooking gas, it is an actual equivalent gas for LPG. It can produce electricity also. You connect your biogas to a stove, it creates LPG. You connect your biogas to a gas generator, it produces electricity. You can also connect your biogas to a thermal system, it can start heating. This is a very interesting slide. You might have seen that cow dung is making about 2% of gas. 20% manure, and it also creates 50 units per ton of electrical power, electrical units, if you connect it to a gas generator. The food waste is double, 4% of gas and 20% of manure and 100 units of electricity. There's a biogas app created by the Indian Biogas Association. I would provide you the link. You can please download it. You can see that everything in this world has different kinds of yield being produced. For example, water hyacinth, which is grown on various lakes in the cities and villages. Do you know that it is 12% of yield? It is 3 times that of food waste also, or 6 times that of cow dung. So every different kind of digestate has different yield. The paddy waste is almost 20% yield. Why are we wasting paddy stubble? It is 20% yield. That's a lot of gas and a lot of electricity which can be produced. I'd like to take you through certain points of bio-CNG. Biogas comes out of hydrolysis. There are 4 processes: hydrolysis, acidogenesis, acetogenesis, and finally methanogenesis. Out of methanogenesis, you have the gas on one side and the slurry or the sludge on the other side. It's a biological process made by God. It never fails. Now, we have 2 different kinds of waste management: centralized and decentralized. I was talking that why don't we all become green entrepreneurs, right? Can we, what kind of scenarios do we have when it is a centralized waste management? When it is huge amounts of waste, 100 tons, 150 tons, 500 tons, 600 tons of waste can be managed through biomethanation. There's an exciting program called SATAT. SATAT is an acronym for Sustainable Alternative Towards Affordable Transportation. It has been recently, this regulation has been passed in 2018. As per this, if you can process minimum 100 tons of waste and create 4 tons, as I said earlier, 4%, 4 tons of bio-CNG, GAIL, HP, Indian Oil, the petroleum companies are ready to buy your bio-CNG at 46 rupees plus GST per kg of bio-CNG. This we have studied results in an excellent ROI of less than 5 to 6 years and also an IRR of 18 to 20%. Now, tell me which renewable energy gives this kind of ROI and IRR? It's a very exciting opportunity. The SATAT program, please all of you, when you have some time, have a look at it. This is just done in the last, just around November 2018, the SATAT program has been launched by the Government of India. This is to help large biomethanation systems in India. If SATAT program is implemented, it's going to be revolutionizing the waste management. It will cut carbon emissions in huge quantities. Additional revenue for farmers. Farmers who were thinking that their waste is a waste, they were burning it. Now they can process waste, can make additional revenue. I have seen farmers in Germany doing more money, growing things for digestate for the biogas. That is called a cash crop in Germany, where they put the digestates, making bio-CNG and growing it. Just like that, they are making more money in that, in Germany and other countries where the regulations are favorable. So even in India, this can happen. The farmers can make more money with the so-called waste. India has signed Paris climate control and different accords. We have to meet certain goals on the renewable energy basket. The climate change goals can be met through carbon emissions, definite reduction in import of natural gas and crude. Just imagine segregation at source at your home. Can it reduce the crude imports of India? Yes, yes, it is possible. So, now, what is compressed biogas? We have biogas, okay? Then when we compress it into cylinders, you call compressed biogas. Now, when you compress biogas, as I had earlier told you, biogas has also CO2. 55 to 60% is methane. You remove the CO2 and you remove the traces of H2S. then you have 90% plus methane. 90% plus methane is equal to natural gas. Natural gas is also 90% methane. So when you compress it, you are creating CNG, compressed natural gas, which is nothing but bio-CNG, because you created the natural gas out of the bio waste. Now, when you create bio-CNG, it can be easily transported through cylinders. Existing CNG stations of the oil marketing companies cover 32 lakh gas-based vehicles. That can increase. Thousands of opportunities for thousands of entrepreneurs to get into Satat program. Just the small difference between CNG and LPG. CNG is much cleaner gas compared to LPG. The primary component in CNG is methane, whereas LPG is propane and butane. CNG hardly produces any greenhouse gas, so is much better. It is very safe. One other very important thing, CNG is a very safe gas. LPG is heavy. Even you might have heard of several blasts even in the houses and everywhere because it's heavy, it sits on the floor. Whereas CNG is very light. It dissipates into thin air very rapidly. You might have never heard of a biogas or even a gobar gas, having an explosion in any part of the world. Just to give you the depiction how the LPG cylinder looks, the CNG cylinder looks a little different. Now, okay, I talked about a great opportunity called Satat program in centralized opportunity. What about decentralized waste processing? There are various opportunities there also. In fact, I would strongly recommend most of you to get into decentralized in the beginning and then get involved in centralized processes. You can have biomethanation projects in apartments, hotels, restaurants, everywhere. I would like to show you some case studies where you will be able to understand the decentralized waste management better. Let me take the case of Rashtrapati Bhavan, probably the largest, in terms of the largest land, 320 acres for any head of state in the world. This is the largest one. In the midst of Delhi, near Luton's Delhi, you have Rashtrapati Bhavan. There, they had a lot of waste. Out of 320 acres, they had landscape waste. They had food waste from the presidential estate and the support staff. There are a lot of support staff with the president. They had waste from them. There is 320 acres. Out of that, about 180 acres is landscape, beautiful, lush green landscape. That waste was available on a daily basis. The cavalry of the president has 99 amazing, beautiful horses. The horse dung was going as a waste. And there was also a small goshala. The cow dung was also going as a waste. So all that is being processed in a biogas plant. 75 to 80 kgs of gas is generated on a daily basis. This can goes to the mess. There is a officer catering mess, catering to about 200 to 250 people 3 times a day. That has been connected there. Then there is Dana Kori, another mess for the lower grade officers. There, the waste is going, and also a lot of food is prepared for horses in Dana Kori. And there's another historical importance here. There is a farrier shop where the horses are given the horseshoe. That farrier shop, the connection has been done. This is going to be the first farrier shop in the world propelled by methane, by biogas out of waste. So these are things happening at Rashtrapati Bhavan. Very prestigious installation. It's a great advertisement for biogas. There's a software tech park in Hinjewadi. Let's take the case of a software tech park. It's everywhere, right? It's probably next to you, near to you, far away from you. There are a lot of software tech parks, a lot of software companies. In this case of Hinjewadi, there were about 6,000 employees working and eating in a canteen nearby. In that canteen, the gas is produced almost about 40 to 45 kgs. That is going piped back to the canteen. So there's a lot of reduction of their costing for the gas. In this case, when we actually did the study with this company, they got the returns. Within 3 years, they had the money, capital expenditure, what they put, they got it back. So now when you become a grown entrepreneur and go and approach a company and tell them, sir, I will take care of waste for next 25 years and you will get back your capital expenditure within 3 years with a clean gas. Who will not like it? So it's just that we need more people, more foot soldiers to go to and approach several companies and customers and tell them the benefits. This is a beautiful case study. Actually, government of Noida, it's called the Noida Authority. What they did was they said, okay, you can put biogas systems, but the operation maintenance, we will not pay you. We will pay for the capital expenditure, the initial expenditure. You say that gas is being produced, fertilizer is being produced. Can you manage the operation maintenance on your own? We don't want the yield. We will give you the capex. The yield is yours. With that, you have to maintain operation and maintenance year after year for the next 10 years. Actually, we could do it for even 25 years. The life of these plants is minimum 25 years. So the challenge is accepted. One of the places in Sector 30, we have given it to DPS school, canteen. Whatever money we are getting from selling the gas to DPS school, that is being used for the operation as well as the maintenance of the plant. In Noida Sector 71, we have given it to a club, a RWA club. So the money generated by selling the gas to them, we're also selling, bagging the organic fertilizer being generated, and that is being sold to the local Namdari stores. So the money being generated is being utilized. What a beautiful model. You are only investing on the capex. The operation maintenance year after year is self-generated. There's another case study. Let's take the case of a town municipal council, which is very small, about 28,000 people population, which is just about, this is very near to Bangalore. It's called Magadi. What were we doing here? And we couldn't find segregated waste because it was not easy to collect segregated waste. So what we did, we told fruit and vegetable market and nearby restaurants to give us the waste. And that waste is being collected. There is a community kitchen we have made. Every day in the morning, from 7 to 10, about 20 stoves are utilized in the community kitchen. People come there, cook, gossip, smile, and go back. Once again, in the evening, they come between 4 and 7. This is another beautiful case study in the case of Magadi. Now, there is naval dockyard, army, and the military. This is one of the case studies in Visakhapatnam, all the waste being produced. You can see the digester is different. The digester is made of polymer because it's highly acidic in that area. It is very near to the seashore. Even stainless steel digesters had issues. So even this polymer digesters can be made. So here it's another beautiful case study where the digester was made suitable for the environment. It's highly acidic area there for the Visakhapatnam dockyard. A typical Bharat Earthmovers factory, which is making metro coaches for all of us and the world. Nowadays, they're even exporting metro coaches to outside world. They had a canteen where they have generating about 500 kgs every day. About 20 kgs of gas is being piped back to the canteen. So any of those institutions nearby your home can be your customer. A mall here, a luxury mall in Bangalore, they were very apprehensive. We are having a very big mall. What about the waste and will it create any odor? No, in the basement, they had no other place. So we put in a system at the basement itself with the entrance of the mall. You will be surprised. You wouldn't even know there is a biogas system because there is zero odor. So today the mall is about 1.5 tons of waste is coming, and about 60 kgs of waste, the gas which is generated is being piped back to the food counters and their employee staffing necessities. This is another beautiful case study. You can approach the local mall. We can have a biogas system there. What about apartments? Apartments do not have a canteen, unfortunately. Some of them might have. What we have told, like solar energy, when they put it on the rooftop, they give it to some of the apartments which are near to the roof. So we give it to some of the apartments near to the biogas system. Once again, this can be utilized as a gas for some of the apartments nearby. We cannot give it to all the apartments, and some apartments can be connected with piping. Or there are some apartments like this where they have given the gas to a small community kitchen where the the drivers and the security guards and the people maintaining the garden, the maids, they cook, have tea, coffee, etc. It's a small CSR activity from any apartment. This was a very typical example which I wanted to tell you. This was a case where in Coimbatore, there was a lot of waste being generated at a fruit and vegetable market. And thankfully, the government of Switzerland wanted to give a grant, and they gave the grant. Thanks to them, we made a digester there. What happened was, when we wanted to give the gas, we could have given the gas to about 40 houses. But then there were about 150 houses. They started protesting. So what we did was very simple. The created gas was connected to a gas generator. The gas generator, we put a 25 kilowatt gas generator in place. That 25 kilowatt was connected to 320 watt to 60 watt street lights. So today, this waste, which is being generated on the APMC market, is powering about 300 street lights. So when you have a question where to give the gas, to whom to give the gas, bring in a gas generator, let the gas generator generate power, and that can be connected to street lights. This is an Air Force station. And some of the CSR activities, a lot of companies have CSR funds. They have, when we had them approached, they had given some CSR activity. For example, this is Vivekananda Ashram, Indian Oil, very courteously put money to provide a CSR activity for the Vivekananda Ashram. And this was another plant where they invested in Nandigram for a small middle school and primary school. But let me tell you, all this is possible. I'm coming back to this slide again to stress on the point that segregation at source is the core of everything. The dry waste, the sanitary waste, the hazardous waste, the debris, everything needs to be segregated. So it's the core of everything. If you can segregate at source, everything what I told you is possible. Now, let me take the story of Harini here. Okay, I had supplied one of the systems to a government primary school, primary and middle school, to a place called Madhugiri. It was also having a girls' hostel. It's a free hostel, free schooling by the government school, where only the local language, the vernacular language, Kannada, is being studied. It's about 200 kilometers away from Bangalore. One day I get a call from the principal there, and he said, "Sir, are you the company who supplied the biogas system?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Sir, Harini is a 6th standard girl. She wanted to speak to you." I said, "Okay, fine. What is it about?" Then Harini spoke to me in the local language, Kannada, and she said, what she said, actually, it made me, I mean, it was a kind of a, in Hindi, there's a romanchana situation, kind of a situation where she said, "Sir, I have seen the biogas plant. And in fact, I have told my parents also and all the people near my neighboring people, we have made a group of students, we have started collecting waste to put to the digester many times because on Saturday and Sunday, they are closed and the school doesn't have waste to put in. So we collect the waste and put in. And we see that segregated waste is creating gas for us. This is amazing. Why don't they make segregation as the 11th fundamental duty of every citizen?" Fantastic words on a 6th standard girl. So what, later on I got to know, the principal told me that they were, before 15 days or so, they would have had a lesson for fundamental duties and fundamental rights. So looking at that, she had equated this situation, and I wrote it to PMO's office and everywhere. And I think it is on the verge of becoming the 11th fundamental duty of every citizen, because as per the Constitution, we should have 7 fundamental rights and 10 fundamental duties, and segregation should be made the 11th fundamental duty of every citizen. And I would also like you to take a pledge. If you don't mind, you might be tired also by this time. I want you to put your right hand, all of you, please follow this. Put all of you, take your right hand. First of all, stand up, please. Take your right hand, put it on your left chest, and take the pledge that I will do source segregation at source, and I will also make my friends and neighbors to do the same. Please take this pledge. And thank you all for such a patient hearing. And any of you want to know more information, you can also become a member of the Indian Biogas Association, IBA, which is an NGO kind of organization, is doing a lot of work to make biogas popular in India. And also we can help you to make, as green entrepreneurs, to make you into profitable green business ventures. Each of you can become a green entrepreneur. We can assist you on that. Please become a member of IBA. It is very simple and very affordable. Thanks again for the patient hearing. And thank you, Dr. Hariharan, and all other stalwarts from Prem Jain Memorial Trust to give me having given an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Kumar sir. Ashish, before you step in, I just want to make to all of you students 2 observations. There are some questions you have raised today, some of you, as you did in the past, which really have no answers. They are difficult questions. So what we have done, as in the past also, and we will be doing this time too, is to list those questions and have you all come back with answers, all the rest of you who are participating today. The second observation I want to make is this, and I'm very, very heartened to share this with you. The last time we had, I think, about 62 cities, participants from about 62 cities, towns and cities. This time we have from Madurai, Guwahati, Guna in Madhya Pradesh, Srikakulam, Jorhat. I counted about 40 plus cities this time. So there is a certain, I don't know where you're all coming from. It probably, thanks to COVID, you've all gone back home and decided to plug into systems, thanks to directions from your faculty. Over to you, Ashish.
Right, sir. Just a minute. There are a lot of questions coming on in the chat box. My request is transfer them to the Q&A box. That's the one I'll be referring. So please keep them there. And Mr. Subbarao, excellent presentation. I was glued absolutely and took the pledge. So wonderful, absolutely, what you presented, and there's an appreciation all over. People have come out with a superb, excellent presentation, very nice session, knowledgeable, dynamite presentation. So these are the adjectives which are floating all around. So wonderful. I have learned so much about waste today. There are a lot of So there are a lot of questions which have come up, and I'm going to pose them to you. And Dr. Hariharan, feel free to step in because you yourself are an expert on the waste, and you spoke very well as an introduction remarks. So first question is from Nivedita Jadhav, who's from Thane, and she's a stalwart in ISHRE also, which is Indian Society of Air Conditioning Engineers. She's asking that while the plastic generation of US and China is so high, is it because the recycling is also high in these countries?
Kumar, I think you should take that question.
On the plastic generation part, I'm not really so much aware because I specialize on organic waste.
Okay.
But,
let me then respond. Pyrolysis as a technology has rapidly grown in China. India has its own homegrown technologies, very simple ones. They don't require more than a fabricator and a reasonably competent mechanical engineer who can design the system, the pyrolysis itself. The other is that all pyrolysis systems, whether it's in China or in India, even in Europe, Europe uses incinerators, and Kumar should step in on that and tell us why incinerators are not very useful for us. He will do that. While I will tell you that in Russia, in China, and in India, the net consumption of energy to the generation of energy that happens from a pyrolysis as biofuel is so positive. That is, in effect, about 20 or 22% is used by a pyrolysis if I have 100 kgs. I'll stop there, and probably in the Q&A answers, we will have a more detailed response offered, Ashish. Kumar, back to you on incinerators and India.
Well, incineration, I'm a staunch, I'm very much against incineration. Incineration needs to be banned.
Why does it then happen in the West, in Europe, as in Canada, for instance,
okay.
and in the US?
Some of the countries at this earlier point of time, they used to have incineration. Even today, Singapore has a very good incineration system. But even with the best systems, incineration has failed to check the pollution. The kind of greenhouse gas that it emits outside is very dangerous, and it is being banned on almost every developed country now. One heartening thing I would like to tell you for, especially when you segregate and when you can do organic waste. When I was in Canada, I got to learn that biogas is a kind of innovation from India. I mean, like yoga and many other things, we had forgotten about our own innovations. And today, I mean, in Germany, Germany is like a guru, even for us. When you go to Germany, almost every town is having biomethanation systems. So when you have such fantastic, beautiful, and simple technologies, when it is an innovation from India, why are you not adapting? And rather than importing incineration systems and creating havoc and creating pollution, there are a lot of incineration systems which are already there and it's not working. And people want allow it to work as well. When it is being banned from all other countries, why are we bringing incineration systems into India when we have our own biogas systems to take care of the organic waste?
I hope you're listening, all of you students. Look at what he said. India is by far the leader in the world in biogas technology. Why are we not using it often enough? Yes, I know for about 70, 80 years, you're absolutely right. One more question I will ask you, Kumar sir, before we ask Ashish sir to come in. You mentioned mud press and sugar refineries somewhere, in passing. Yeah. Tell us of one such sugar refinery, let us say, and what happens to them? What is mud press and what happens to it in a way that it becomes CNG that cars and gensets can use? Children will learn from that. Students will learn from that.
See, there are a lot of swaths of sugar factories in some parts of Maharashtra, Pune, and even UP, and even some parts of Karnataka, and I might have left some other states which I'm not aware of. These sugar industries, after all kinds of processing, even after molasses and all that, the final waste is called a press mud. That press mud right now is being given to farmers. They are telling those farmers, because press mud is produced in large quantities, they are telling those farmers that press mud is an excellent menu, why don't you buy it? Some farmers, some gullible farmers are even buying it and using it as compost, which is not a good compost at all. It doesn't harm the crops, but it doesn't help also. So that press mud has an excellent 7 to 8% yield in terms of biogas. So what we are doing, we have started approaching sugar industries. One of the, which we were about to launch a project in Haveri in Karnataka. Just because of COVID, it has been stopped, but we'll start that. Dr. Aryan, you are also aware of that. I had informed you about it. So that when you do, there is a 65 tons of press mud which is being produced on a daily basis. That can be converted into bio-CNG, and the local GAIL, the Gas Authority of India Limited, is ready to buy that at 46 rupees per kg plus GST. So with your waste, which you are just distributing to farmers at 1 or 2 rupees, today you can make, with a certain capital expenditure, with an IRR of 18 to 22% and a payback period of less than 6 years, you can have a biomethanation plant. So any of you students, if you are near to any sugar industry, there is excellent opportunities there. We can discuss and look into a beautiful green entrepreneurship there.
So coming back to it, I have a question that you spoke about M-sand.
Yes.
Now, is M-sand is something which is where the industry just started looking at it, or it's really gone down and is part of our industry today in a big way?
Let me answer that, sir. The metro cities have no river sand. We can't afford to have river sand, or is it not even a good practice to bring in river sand from maybe hundreds of kilometers, and it's not even available. And it is being sold in the black market and bottle and blah, blah, blah. M-sand is being tested by the government bodies. I am told that M-sand is equal or better specification than the river sand. And this is happening out of your construction demolition waste. Just 5 to 6 years back, all of us didn't know what to do with our construction demolition waste, and that used to go to a landfill. But now we know there are plants which are making C&D waste into M-sand. So that's another beautiful opportunity emerging out of construction and demolition waste. Even that one which was going to the landfill can be stopped, and that can be made into useful M-sand.
Sure, thank you.
Yes, all of you students, let me add what it means when Ashish sir is asking you about M-sand. If I were to build, let us say, a 1 lakh square feet building, typically I will use about, all you civil engineers, please note, you'll use about 4,000 cubic meter of concrete. And at about 0.45 to 0.5, you'll use about 2,000 cubic meter of sand. Now, if you took 1 cubic meter of sand, and let us say spread it on a riverbed, you will know therefore how much you are depleting a riverbed of sand to every 1 lakh square feet. Do the math. It's a very simple class 6 arithmetic. Do that and you'll understand what we are doing to hurt riverbeds. You kill the riverbed, you kill the river. Remember this. Ashish, back to you.
Thank you, Doctor. There's a question from Bhagwati Kishore. The question is, our apartment has wet waste composting bins. We produce so much manure because we are 150 units of apartments. My question is what to do with the extra manure processed. The apartment association has stopped doing composting because they are not able to dispose it of.
How many apartments is that, Bhagwati? I mean, any idea how many apartments is that?
150 apartments.
150 flats, yeah.
The compost, if they are doing that, yes, compost is sometimes a headache, where to put the compost, where to give it. But we can all create our own small supply chains. The compost can be given away to the nearby apartments and nearby neighbors, or even nurseries who are there. They can either sell it or just give it away as a CSR activity, a small CSR activity. But if they had done biomethanation, they would have not had such a big problem. They would have had a gas which would have helped their own people. And of course, even there, the compost will be there. But composting, we need to create our own small supply channels. That's the only.
If they had gone for a biogas unit, what would it have cost them? And how much gas would they get in terms of cylinders? A domestic cylinder is about 14 kilos. So how much would they have got? It
is about 4% if they are using food waste. So 4% food waste is about 6 kgs of gas. I'm not saying the 6 kgs will take care of all the 150 apartments.
I agree.
It can definitely take care of the 10 or 12 apartments which are nearby.
Or it could be for their canteen or something.
Yeah, if they have a canteen, or even for the apartments nearby to the biogas system, we can pipe it. Nowadays, the piping technology is so good that you can even pipe it for long distances, 3 kilometers, 4 kilometers, where you have pipes and blowers working together.
And so for 150 flats, how much would it cost them?
For 150,
600 people.
For 150 flats, it would have cost them about 7.5 lakhs as first capex. But that is, if you convert 150 by 7 lakhs, it's hardly about 3,000 one-time investment. But you would have got it back in, say, 2.5 years.
That's the point. Ashish, over to you.
Wow, that's nice.
That's right.
So
I wanted him to say that.
Right.
Yes.
Mr. Sanjay Ramanujan is asking that as the subsidies are provided for the solar panels, are there any such subsidies available to promote adoption of the gas generating plants?
May I answer that question, Kumar?
Yes.
Before I ask you?
Yes, sure.
Well, you know, we have this. Why should we have a subsidy for something that can bring back a payback which is at 35 to 36%? If, let us say, I'm running a business which is earning even 15 or 20%, do you expect anybody to give you a subsidy? Is one question I have. The second, Kumar, to you, in the Noida sectors, what is that scheme where the capex is given by the ULB there? Please explain that.
Okay. A subsidy, as you rightly said, Dr. Hariharan, is not required. Of course, subsidy is available for large scale plants. Let's say you are putting 100-ton plants. The capex is around 16 to 18 CR. About 4 CR is given as a subsidy, which is 1/5 of the capital expenditure. Subsidies are also given for village and for.
But do you agree with the very premise that you need to be giving subsidy, or whether it's 18 crores or whether it is 5 lakhs, for something that is earning so much money for people.
Yeah, but in the initial stage, especially for large scale plants, even we as IBA were requesting for subsidy. But for small scale plants, as you rightly said, you really don't need subsidy. And that's why subsidy is not accorded to the urban people.
Right.
And
So
back to Noida Authority, Noida Authority has I think it's one of the richest municipalities in India. And having been there, they wanted to have a very clean waste management policy. They are giving up to 90%. Never heard in my life. No country in the world gives 90% capex subsidy. Only 10% comes from the RWA and 90% comes from them, and they directly pay to the contractor. That 10%, if the RWA is depositing it in their account, then the 100% is given to the contractor.
Sure, sir. We have 10 minutes. Ashish will guide us. Yeah.
Very interesting. So there's another question, an interesting question. What is the stand of NGT with respect to the bulk waste generation of generators and the that we use there?
NGT and even Supreme Court has published that bulk waste generators have to process their own waste. They are all saying the same things. But the local pollution control board, like take the case of Hyderabad or even Mumbai, such huge cities and such huge bulk waste generators, and that is all not being processed. That is all going to a landfill. That is not correct. So NGT, he is of the same opinion. Even Supreme Court has given a, I can give you the information.
We'll do that. We'll do that in the Q&A
as well. Yeah, so that they also say the same. Yes. They want waste bulk generators to process in situ.
Yeah. Sure.
Excellent. So Bhagwati has asked a follow-up question. It's the same question which had come up for the 150 units. Right. Is asking that what is the space required to put up a biogas system in an apartment with 150 units?
Go on, Kumar. You
150 kg apartments, it's about one car parking space. There are a lot of compact biogas systems being built around the world and even in India. And one car parking space.
And about 2 meters height, that's it. You know, if you had to take it as volume, it will come to, it'll be like a large crate, a large box. It won't even actually take 180 square feet. It will take much less than that.
We take, because there are a lot of students here, we take the formula for making a cylinder, pi r square h. So we, in terms of volume, yes.
Sure, they'll work it out.
So another question from a lady called Gayatri is there. Says that the nomenclature of wet and dry is not clear. There are many people who talk about the confusion of milk packets. Are they wet or dry?
Sorry, I was unable to hear you, sir. Can you repeat the question?
So
no, if I take asking, go ahead. No, Kumar, somebody is asking if a milk packet cover, no, plastic cover, is that dry or is it wet waste? She wants to know.
It's a very good question. I want to ask that person, is the dry grass wet or dry? So it is because we should see the origin of that waste. Even if it is dripping wet, the milk packet is inorganic, it is plastic. Even if the grass is very dry, it is organic, it is wet waste.
Sure. Go on, Ashish, back to you.
So just the last question of the day, Murli Anur is asking, what is the point of segregating at source when the municipality team which comes to collect the garbage dumps collect them in the same cart or the auto or truck? And that's been observed in many parts of Bangalore.
Correct. Good question, Kumar.
No, that was happening previously. That was happening previously.
No, Kumar.
It is happening, but about 70 wards in Bangalore has been selected where this is not happening. They are ensuring that waste is not being mixed. So that from 70, they started with 30, now they've gone to 70. So very soon, in near future, it will be 198 municipal wards. Yes, that was a very good question, but that's going to all stop in various municipalities.
Honestly, we don't have an answer. All you students, listen to that question. In your city, you are in Nashik, you are in Guwahati, it does not matter. Guwahati, I know there are quite a few students. You cannot put it in the river. So what do? You segregate in your house. The people from the urban local body who collect it, they take it away from, they mix it again. We don't have an answer just now for that question. It's a good question to ask.
A lot of people are also saying, Mr. Kumar, is that the IBA that you spoke about,
Yes.
they would like to become a member of it. If you could share the email website address, could that be put as part of the PJMT website? They would like to join that. They want somebody wants an app link, somebody wants to know the fees. So there are a lot of questions related to that. And just to end it, Doctor, go ahead.
Kumar, what we will do is we will respond to that in a way that the Brain Drain Memorial Trust will help those youngsters to connect with the IBA.
Sure.
Over to you, Ashish. Yes, sorry.
And just the last remark of the day, which has come from Aneri Patel, saying that are you going to organize any sessions related to hazardous waste and e-waste management?
Yes,
so I think it's a
we will
question
be
for us
doing
to think
that.
about.
Very, thank you for asking that question. There will be one session on that. There will be one more session coming up sometime or the other in the next few months, I will say, on plastic waste alone. One more on industrial waste. We talked about slag and fly ash and such. And a last one on construction debris. As the national chair, V. Suresh, told me the other day also, and I'm sure he's on air today with us, today we could take up only biomethanation, but that is not the end of the story. There's a great deal more to waste in India, and we will take them up as we go along. So, over to you, Ashish.
Right. So that's it for today. I think we have had an excellent session. We couldn't have asked for a better speaker, better presentation material. Your material was so nice, Mrs. Varao, that you were all glued, as I said earlier also. So very informative. I think it's all over the chat box, the Q&A box. The appreciations are there. We're grateful to you. So our last session of this 6-part series of the Living Building series is going to happen next Thursday, same time. We have a speaker which Dr. Hariharan is going to talk about, and after that, as Dr. Hariharan said, when we end the session next week, we're also going to mention to you the next series that we're going to start and give you information about that. So stay tuned with the PJMT. There's plenty coming up. There's a lot to learn from here. And thank you very much to all of you, and over to you, Dr. Hariharan.
Thank you, and all of you students, I urge you once again, and thank you faculty members who are here present today. I can see that more than 75% of those who signed in are still continuing to be there. I request you both, teachers and students, to go back to the reference reading materials of each of the sections. The faculty, please see that you advise, guide, mentor your students to see that they study, not simply listen to these presentations of the past, and answer the questions that they put up. The questions that Kumar sir has raised, the 7 questions he has raised, please go back to them. Very lovely questions, answer them. Come back to us on what you want to learn from Kumar sir beyond what he has shared with us today, and we will help you. Thank you, Ashish. You should have the closing notes, and maybe we should sign off after that.
Thank you, Doctor, and thank you to you, and once again to Mr. Subbarao, and also to our PJMT backend team, who have been doing a wonderful job in hosting these webinars. There's a lot which happens behind the scenes, and grateful to all of them, starting from the wonderful...
All of them. We will leave the names out for today. Thank you.
Sure, I think we'll
wonderful
go along. So,
yes.
Thank you again to everyone. And
absolutely.
Thank you.
Wish you all the best. Stay safe, and see you next Thursday. Thank you.
See you.
Thank you, Kumar sir and Ashish sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Bye.